Peeping Tom. Fall 2007. Macon, Georgia. Two boys are sitting in their dormitory bedroom, and a conversation is taking place that will change their lives forever. The pair are both freshmen, newly introduced, and getting along well. They study at the Mercer University School of Law, a prestigious school with less than 400 students and ranking amongst the top schools in the nation. Earlier that day, the two boys went to class as usual. Mercer School of Law prides itself on small, intimate classrooms where students can collaborate on projects and take a vested interest in each other's education. And this meant that for the two boys, they knew everyone immediately. And as they're talking about their day and about their classmates, the conversation takes a shocking turn. If you were to commit a murder, how would you get away with it? One boy asks. The second boy replies, take off the arms, legs, and head, so nobody can identify the body. But to the first boy, this seems illogical, and he says so. I've studied forensics, he says. You should destroy the remains, not just dispose of them. And his friend coldly replies, I like my way better. Years later, law student Matthew Garrison would be asked about this conversation. He remembers it as something of a thought experiment, a trolley problem, something to pass the time before him and his roommate went to sleep. Matthew wasn't seriously asking. He had no way of knowing that his roommate wasn't just passing the time. He was deathly serious. And that roommate would commit a crime so gruesome and disturbing, it would scar Matthew Garrison and the town of Macon, Georgia, forever. June 17th, 2011, Maryland. Lauren Giddings, a vibrant young woman of 27, had been smiling all evening. She's the oldest of three siblings, and today, her younger sister Caitlin was finally married. As the maid of honor, Lauren has spent the past couple of days making sure everything would go smoothly. And it had. She stood by her sister at the altar. She smiled for the I do's, clapped for the kiss, and when it was over, congratulated her baby sister, formerly a bride, now a wife. Lauren hadn't been back home in Maryland since Christmas, and although she had just graduated from the prestigious Mercer University School of Law and desperately needed to study for the upcoming bar exam, she made the trip up from Georgia to celebrate. But as soon as that wedding was over, Lauren would need to head back to university. Everyone already knew, as soon as Lauren got back to Mercer, she'd be wrestling with her law books. She was a hard worker like that. President of her school's Federalist Society, top marks across all of the classes. She was brilliant and just as kind-hearted. So after a long day of dancing and laughing, Lauren wished the newlyweds farewell and off she went, back to Mercer University. June 27th, back in Maryland. Younger sister Caitlin was settling into her new marriage. She spent time with her family and her husband. She didn't even have time to check her cell phone. She was so busy answering texts and calls of congratulations, and it was a wonderful, blissful busy. But there was a feeling in her gut that she couldn't shake. It had been 10 days since Lauren had returned to university. And in all that time, Lauren hadn't made contact. Not with her father, or her mother, or her newlywed sister. No one had heard anything. Caitlin reminded herself what Lauren had told her, that once she returned to school, she would completely dedicate herself to her studies. That much was reasonable. But to drop contact for so long, more than a week, that was odd. But although Caitlin was getting nervous, she trusted her sister. And besides, Caitlin was newly married. Everything was probably fine back in Georgia. So she let go of her concerns and tried to enjoy herself. But as the unease grew heavier and more paramount, on June 29th, just 2 days later, Caitlin finally received a phone call. But it wasn't from Lauren. It was from Lauren's close friend. She was calling to see if Caitlin had heard anything from her sister. Of course, Caitlin had not, but she'd call around, see if anyone else had. She began searching her phone for people to call and realized she had missed some text messages in the flurry of congratulations. Have you seen Lauren? Lauren hasn't been answering her phone. Is Lauren still in Maryland with you? Caitlin, now panicking, begins making her own phone calls. Close friends of Lauren stay nearby the campus, one after the other. No one, not a single person, has heard from Lauren. The next call she makes is to the Macon police station. Her father drives down immediately, and her mother makes plans to fly down the next day. The family, together, will search for the missing Lauren. But they won't be looking for very long. By the following day, on June 30th, the town of Macon is swarming with police. In Lauren's apartment, they find her keys, wallet, and cell phone, but no Lauren. They begin a thorough search of her entire apartment building, trying to find any clues that point to what might have happened to the missing Lauren Giddings. And down in the laundry room, they find just that. A bloodied hacksaw. Lauren was murdered. And within the hour, pieces of Lauren start turning up.
Person that was living there?
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
Did you see her hang out with anyone at the time or anything like that?
I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen anything. I mean, I've always hear noise outside, but it's just people walking by pretty much.
And she just recently graduated from Mercer?
Yeah, she and I we were both JD students. We graduated back in May.
What kind of person was she? I mean, what did you see her?
I mean, she's as nice as can be. I mean, very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know any enemies she might have had, somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, we don't know where she is. I mean, the only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. Because we went over. One of her friends had a key. We went inside and tried to see if there was anything amiss, but I mean, she had a door jamb that was sitting right by it, so there was no sign that anyone broke in. I mean, the door was locked when everyone got here. I mean, we just don't know where she is.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of. I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body.
Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. So that's how we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
The interview you just watched was produced by WXGA, a local Georgia news station, and the man was neighbor and graduate law student Stephen McDaniel. His despair, hearing that Lauren Giddings is dead, is undeniable. Her torso was discovered in a nearby trash can, and only by chance. The trash truck was an hour late. Had it arrived on time, no one would have discovered Lauren's remains. But someone else had a different perspective to offer. Watching from home, Matthew Garrison sees his old freshman roommate getting interviewed by WXGA, and he remembers that late night conversation from years earlier. As soon as Matthew learned about the case, the missing girl, and the discovered torso on his old college campus, he knew. He knew it could only be Stephen McDaniel. People would tell me, "Your roommate is effing crazy," Matthew Garrison told journalist David Latt. Nobody in our social circle had any problem believing it. Matthew informs the police, explains his suspicions, and Stephen McDaniel is promptly arrested. They interrogate him. Where had he been? What had he been doing? But the former law student doesn't budge. He ignores the questions he doesn't like and refuses others. When asked if officers can search his apartment or his phone records, he receives them similarly, with an absolute refusal. They ask him about a pair of fresh scratches on his torso. They say, "Those scratches look consistent with fingernail scratches." McDaniel claims he scratched himself sleeping, but the police aren't having it. They interrogate him for half the night, awaiting a search warrant, and when they get it, they find blood in McDaniel's apartment. He is arrested and his cell phone seized. In his camera roll, a chilling video. McDaniel had been stalking Lauren for months. He was obsessed with her and intent on killing her. But he needed to see what her apartment looked like. So he taped his cell phone to his stick, and here we see him scouting the living room, planning his senseless killing. McDaniel would later confess to the killing. Using a stolen master key, he snuck into Lauren's apartment in the night, wearing a mask and gloves. He strangled her to death while she slept. Then he dragged her to his nearby apartment and dismembered her. While most of her remains were discarded in a campus dumpster, which were taken to the landfill and never recovered, McDaniel is currently serving a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 30 years served. Today, he continues filing appeals and making pleas for his release, insisting in one form or another that he was innocent and deserves a second chance. But for Lauren's family, there is no appeal. There is no second chance. Only the vacancy he created in their lives. A daughter who will never come home, no matter how much they plead. And hopefully, regardless of his knowledge of the law, he spends the rest of his life behind bars. The Redwood City Burn. August 15th, 1989, Stockton, California. It was a scorching hot day at summer's end. Alfonso Lua, driving with family on Interstate 205, was eager to get home and cool off. They'd been driving for some time now, and only had a little while to go, when their car suddenly overheated. Frustrated, the family pulled over, and while Alfonso inspected the damage, his wife and son looked on, fanning themselves in the 90-degree heat. The car was burnt out. There was no doubt about that. Probably an issue with the radiator. He wouldn't be able to fix it himself, at least not anytime soon. Alfonso comes up with a plan. Walk to the nearest house and ask for help. The family will join him. So together, they march down the boiling roadside, eager to find a savior. But early on in their journey, they discovered something hidden in a bush, deep onto the shoulder near Hanson Road. A camouflage jacket. It caught their eye, and curiosity got the better of them. It looked in good condition, not something someone would just throw away or forget about. So they decided to take a quick detour to check out the jacket. Alfonso reached into one of the pockets. Inside, a collection of cassettes. Recognizably, they were heavy metal music. And an unlabeled videotape. Again, struck by curiosity, he wondered what might be on the strange videotape. Regardless, they first needed to find help. So he pocketed the items he'd found and continued plodding along. Eventually, he found help, thankfully, and was able to get home without anyone suffering from heat stroke. But when they got home, They all wondered together, what might be on the videotape? Back in 1989, every house had a VCR, and so did Alfonso. So he tucked in the videotape, rewound the footage, and hit play. What the family saw next was nothing short of horrifying. A roaring house fire, and a madman ranting and laughing at his accomplishment, setting fire to someone's home. The family was terrified. They turned the footage over to local authorities, and just like the family, the local firemen were just as terrified. "I've never run across anything as eerie as that tape," said Frank Curry, fire captain for the California Department of Forestry. "It frightened me. As a matter of fact, I thought about it that night when I went to bed." Almost immediately, Frank and his team began scouring the video for clues as to where exactly the fire had been started, and more importantly, who did it. First, they analyzed the footage piece by piece. Too dark to see any landmarks, they instead turned to words of the madman, carefully replaying the video to make out hushed words, sentences, and phrases. Phrases like, "Look at the fire. This is beautiful. Look at it. You see what I can do? Do you see what I can do? This is my domain, my hell." Chilling words. And although it gave investigators a view into the mind of whatever maniac had done this, it didn't bring them any closer to a location or a suspect. But then, a name. "Look at it, Omar. This is what I've been doing on your week's vacation. I said I'll do it. I said I'll do it." This was a major clue, but a vague one. Who was Omar? Was that the homeowner? Away on vacation? Unaware that their property was burning to ashes? Could it be that the arsonist was a construction worker and Omar the property manager? If the arsonist had been fired, he would have plenty of reason to go destroy the home, but maybe not. Or was Omar a victim living in the home? Was it a murder? A disgruntled worker's revenge? A spontaneous act of anarchy? The name, though helpful, brought about more questions than answers. And before long, they were trying other methods. First, you can hear firemen responding to the property, attempting to put it out, but it was too vague a lead. 500,000 house fires happen each year in the United States, and many of those are in California. There would be no way to track down which firemen had responded to this fire without clearer details. But visually enhancing the footage proved too difficult and too fruitless. Instead, they made a couple of deductions. The house appears to be a wood-framed, one-story ranch with 2 chimneys. There was another house on the left side of the picture, partially hidden by a white trailer. The trailer may indicate that the burning house was under construction. The setting is uncluttered, perhaps rural. The arsonist gives the date as 1988, and TV commercials recorded onto another part of the tape verify that date. Because fire engines do arrive, it seems fairly certain that somewhere a report of this fire is on file. But the actual location of the house fire was a dead end. The inciting incident, when the Lau family discovered the camouflage jacket on Interstate 205, was too vague a placement. Interstate 205 is a 37-mile-long highway that feeds into several of the state's major highways. That means anyone could have been the arsonist. They could have been from Oregon or Nevada or Washington State, and they'd have no way of knowing. But then, as Frank was debating the interstate and the jacket, a thought occurs to him. What happened to it? Captain Frank Curry met with Alfonso Lua on Interstate 205, and together they searched for the camouflage jacket. And remarkably, it was still there. Nobody had touched it since the Luas, and although the Luas had found the tapes and cassettes, they hadn't found everything. In the pockets, previously dismissed as garbage, was a wooden pestle used to grind up herbs, and nearby, a camouflage glove and a ceramic skull. Given the information from the video, Captain Frank began to suspect the arsonist may have been practicing Satanism, dark magic, rituals. It's obvious to Frank, this man, whoever he is dangerous. Frank knew that many serial killers of his day began as arsonists. The terrible son of Sam, David Berkowitz, was responsible for murdering 6 people in New York City in 1976. But before his killing spree, he was known as an arsonist, responsible for over 2,000 fires all throughout the Big Apple. Frank, for his part, wanted to stop the arsonist in the video before he could become the next son of Sam. But the jacket was the only lead he had. Without anywhere else to take the investigation, he decides to try a different strategy altogether. They needed a location. That much was clear. And in order for them to find it, they'd need help from the public. Unsolved Mysteries was a groundbreaking true crime and paranormal documentary series that premiered in 1987, blending reenactments, interviews, and ominous narration. The show was created to help investigators solve actual, real cases, asking the public for assistance at the end of every show. Created by John Cosgrove and Terry Dunn Muir, and famously hosted by Robert Stack, its stark visual style, chilling music, and direct appeals to viewers for tips gave it the feeling of a public investigation unfolding in real time, turning ordinary audiences into Crime Stoppers. Frank submits the arsonist footage to Unsolved Mysteries, and within minutes of the episode's first airing, hundreds of tips start flooding in. But one viewer would change the course of the mystery for good. Ed Tarantino is watching at home when he makes the startling revelation. The burning house depicted in the video was the house just behind him. He remembers when it happened. The home was unoccupied. It was still under construction in 1988, a year before the tape was discovered. It had mysteriously burned to the ground. In 1989, it was rebuilt, but the fact remains. He might not be able to make out any details, but Ed is certain it's the same house. He immediately calls the telecenter to report the information, and suddenly, they have their location. 60 miles away in Redwood City, California, a fire captain can confirm the viewer's suspicions. Captain John Delgenges knew every fire that happened in his county. He remembers responding to the burning house, and even more remarkably, he recorded it for training purposes, setting up a camera nearby to capture their extinguishing of the home. The two captains compare their footage, and finally, without any shadow of a doubt, they have their location: Redwood City. And just as quickly after discovering the location, they discover more startling and frightening information. Between 1987 and 1989, they connected another 10 fires to the one depicted in the home video, meaning that Whoever the arsonist was, this wasn't an isolated incident. He was on a rampage, and if they didn't stop him soon, just like the son of Sam, he might get bored of destroying unoccupied homes and start killing people. But who is Omar? They discovered that the name Omar isn't connected to the property in any way. Not the construction crew, not the owners, the realtors, no one. The only person Omar could be connected to is the arsonist himself. But their theory wouldn't be confirmed until the following year, when another viewer, Doris Lance, watching reruns of Unsolved Mysteries, has a realization. She wonders if the unidentified Omar might be her 17-year-old neighbor. The boy was known for troublemaking. Maybe he had information on the fires? She calls in the tip, and police take Omar in for questioning. At first, he denies any involvement, but after a couple of hours, he's ready to talk. He is the Omar from the video, and the arsonist is his friend. He had been on vacation during the actual fire, but his friend had told him beforehand. Omar didn't believe him, not until he saw the videotape his friend had made. "Look at it, Omar. I said I'll do it. I said I'll do it." Omar's friend was 19 years old, and his name was John. They began surveilling John's home. For weeks, they watched the boys coming and going. Even though Omar gave them a name, they had no concrete proof that John had set the fires. Not really. So they waited to see if they could catch him in the act. And after about a month, they did. In the night, without warning, smoke begins billowing out from John's house, and a humming orange glow starts to emanate from the garage. Firemen arrive on the scene within minutes, and inside they see John. He'd set his garage on fire. The fire is quickly put out, and the boy is arrested, giving the firemen free rein to investigate. And what they found inside changes the case completely. Dissected animal corpses, bloody knives, a Freddy Krueger mask and gloves, a collection of newspaper clippings connected with other fires in the area, and more videotapes. Captain John's theory was correct after all. This boy was not just an arsonist. He was a psychopath, and his cruel behavior was evolving beyond fires. In 1991, John pled guilty to 1 count of arson, but because of his age, the court pushed for rehabilitation over severe punishment, and he served time in juvenile hall. His full identity was never released to the public, and after his release, he disappeared back into ordinary life. No public record, no interviews, no known whereabouts, just a slew of burnt buildings left in his wake, an eerie videotape, and one haunting question that lingers decades later. If that videotape hadn't been found on the side of the road, how many more fires would have followed? And if he was getting worse, how many people could have lost their lives? Jeffrey Epstein's home videos. Little St. James. The infamous island Jeffrey Epstein used to traffic dozens of young girls, holding them against their will for weeks at a time. We are all far too familiar with it by now. The high-definition lens of today gives it an eerie, almost distant quality. But in this recently released footage, we start to see it in a whole new light. We don't know who recorded this, in what year, or at what time. But whoever they were took the time to capture the scenery. The footage is clearly damaged, but we can still make out clear details: blue, crystalline waves, breaking on the edge of the sand. Palm trees, rock walls lining a simple road that leads down into the island. A golf cart perched at the edge of a hill. The footage cuts to sea level. On the water, we see the stone walls again, carving into the forest. A dark entrance leads further inland. And more golf carts, 3 more. This isn't a small group of criminals operating on some patch of sand in the middle of the ocean. It's a large-scale operation, and over this quiet, peaceful landscape, the horrors taking place seem even more unbelievable. The camera cuts back to the hillside. If you look closely, you can see the faint imprint of a road slicing through the hillside. The transit system on the island is basic, but terrifyingly extensive. The American flag flies high, normally a symbol for unity, democracy, and law, tainted by association. From above, it looks like something you'd book on holiday. A shimmering cove, a water trampoline, even a yacht. But just beside it, we see the infamous baby blue rooftops of St. James Island. Up until this time, we've only seen them from distant aerial views, but now we get to see every terrifying detail of the tropical hellscape. And somewhere inside is a monster, waiting for his next victim. Warning, the footage you're about to watch is incredibly disturbing. A blurred out victim is performing for Epstein.
That's what you'll be learning today.
I'm learning some
Yay!
my boyfriend's dad.
Exactly. Brilliant.
Mismatch.
This is Mismatch Teacher. She's mismatched today. It's just for Jeffrey's amusement.
No, see what he did to Nadia?
That's true. Yes, but it's all within the own privacy.
The rest of the footage is too graphic to show on YouTube, but needless to say, even though it's blurred, It's horrific. 2 girls coerced into practicing tonight's entertainment. Let's cut to back on the hilltops. A helicopter is doing tricks for 2 onlookers, a man and a woman.
That's crazy. He like sneaks up on you.
What?
He all sneaks up on you.
The pilot begins doing dangerous flips. Normally, this would be regulated, but there are no rules on a private island. Epstein has total control here. And who else is in attendance on the island?
Oh my god!
A quick shot of what looks to be Epstein's private pilot. And as we follow the helicopter, a clearer shot of the men accompanying our camerawoman.
That's crazy.
Well, circus girl wanted a ride. Happy New Year. Yes.
A public park of some sort. What looks to be an old building or manor.
On the road. Just trying to get all the layout.
After some research, the building she's getting the layout for is the South Gate House of the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir, located in Central Park. The building was used to regulate the city's water supply. So the question is, why does the unknown camerawoman want the layout? Well, let's keep watching.
Oh, really? Do you remember what happened to Snell?
Oh, wow.
The first fight?
And it used to be part of the water supply of New York, Manhattan.
Shot Snell. But they knew.
Assuming we are still in the same area, it's reasonable enough to assume we are in the South Gate House. The machinery we see here, including an AC electric generator, would have been used to generate power from the river. The camerawoman continues to catalog the space. Not just the machinery, again, she's cataloging the layout. And we're about to find out what for.
Is it ramen? Yeah. That is our boat.
That's cool.
Why is it here?
And there's an opportunity for
Right
it.
now, on the deck.
Use it for the crew chief.
You could build out on the water.
Well, I mean,
Or-
everything's open now. I mean, there's no.
And those are also pump houses. You see that we could do different things with that's a northern pump house, but they're much smaller than ones. This is the prime one.
Okay. You could be all connected or whatnot.
Somehow, I don't know what could happen. That would have to be.
Is it Grumman? Wall is covered. The steps are pretty.
Put a little space between you as you go down on the steps. Don't everyone get on the steps.
Yeah, you can't really see anything.
In the dark underbelly of the city, bathed in the dim green infrared, the group continues to discuss the inner workings of the pump house, what it was used for, and what it could be turned into.
I have a night shot on here, infrared, so it's actually picking up.
Hey, oh, that's nice and cool.
Oh, did it come down here? So cool. Just get this part.
Back on the surface, the camera woman happily hums as she scans the exterior. I'd like to remind you, this isn't just any woman. We can't confirm their identity, but considering this footage was collected from the same camera, and its inclusion in the files, we can allegedly assume this woman was sent here by Epstein. And if you had any suspicions about what their intentions for the property are, a government building mind you, well, they're about to tell us.
Because you could sort of have this already planned out for something, so then what part is available to do something with?
We actually don't have any funding for this.
Oh, okay, so that's, okay. So you just need funding for what you already have in mind to do?
Yes.
Okay.
And in a sense, there's basically a top lot geared towards smaller kids.
Mm-hmm.
The large piece out front adjacent to Empire Rock would be for older kids, and is also basically a giant water feature. At the high point, water actually runs down there. This area out in front will be a large open area with a synthetic turf play surface. And then there'll be swings and kind of an old-fashioned playground off to the south.
That makes it very clear. Epstein, or whoever this woman is, were involved in an investment or acquisition of the property. Or at the very least, they were in talks to help fund a public park with sections for younger and older kids. But why did she need to see the inside of the building? The underground? What was the intended purpose of cataloging the interior if their only intention was to fund an exterior playground? Well, we'll never know. And as I was reviewing the footage, it seemed to be over. But I was wrong. Hidden at the end of the tape, sandwiched between two empty blue screens, is 2 seconds of footage. The camera is turned on facing an unknown woman, and then quickly whips around to the desk in front of her. On it, a document that's too blurry to read, and some letterhead that reads, Jeffrey Epstein. Throughout the tape, we've seen numerous women manning the camcorder. And what their relation is to Epstein, we have no way of knowing. But the number of people we saw in the footage, the 3 blurred out people, and the several men we counted earlier, including Epstein himself, makes this a startling piece of evidence. And this isn't an isolated tape. There's new footage coming out every single day, as people continue to sift through the thousands of videos, each time discovering new, first-hand documentation of the horrors that Jeffrey Epstein inflicted on his innocent victims, and the ways he captured each and every moment. Here we see Epstein dancing with an alleged victim. It seems lighthearted, like they're both having fun. I think this is what makes the Epstein videos so confusing for most people. These girls, although they look like they're having fun, have been systematically manipulated by powerful people. And no matter how jubilant it looks, the terrible, traumatic abuses these women suffered can never be fully communicated. But this is what abuse, real, everyday abuse looks like. It almost looks normal. But beneath the surface, darker currents are running. This footage has no audio. Jeffrey is presenting an alleged victim to the camera. We don't hear anything, but there seems to be some light conversation happening. She reaches out to touch him. We can't see her face, but the gesture seems almost playful. But then we begin to see the terrible truth. He gives her instruction. Then he gets a bit impatient. And what happens next is beyond words. This is something we saw in the original camcorder footage. Provocative acts. Women teaching other girls to do the same. This is a pattern we continue to see throughout the newly released footage. A powerful man with more money and influence than any of us could possibly imagine, taking pleasure in the strong arm acquisition of property, prestige, and his disgusting desires. Jeffrey Epstein didn't just abuse his victims. He wanted them to perform. He treated corporations, the government, and his own victims like playthings. He used them for his own entertainment, and he cataloged everything so he could relive it every single day. His own personal movie, where he got to decide the ending. And today, as more files have come to light, it's become all the more important that we continue to press the issue. Because only after the last file is released and every perpetrator is brought to justice, only then can the terrible performance end.